same question said maybe a little bit differently.
Better. By that you mean better. Thank you.
I was going to get there. The Democratic governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, was on, and she was definitely trying to make the case that this is all on Republicans. She said, Joe Biden has taken the lead. Republicans had it in their hands, the ability to get this done and prove that no, Washington's not dysfunctional. But then Donald Trump went on social 24 hours later and it all collapsed. Is it clear politically who has the upper hand when it comes to the border crisis right now?
Unfortunately for Republicans, I'd say that most Americans aren't looking back to 2021 and looking at the measures that were in place on immigration and on our border that were revoked by then President Biden, and Mayorkas was out there touting it, that they took and wheeled back a lot of those immigration policies, and I also then put Vice President Harris in charge of the border. So, Republicans have missed opportunities to harken back to that because of their complete failure on messaging right here and now. And that's where we're really losing, because what they're doing is they've let somebody who doesn't really understand or respect the Constitution impede on their very constitutional duty and responsibility to pass legislation.
But you guys are both making the case right now that this is a better issue in a way for President Biden than Donald Trump. And that's a stretch, isn't it? Because the polls are pretty clear that voters say that they trust Trump more than Biden on issues of immigration. So, Van, I understand what you're saying, but as part of this wish casting.
Maybe it's wish casting, but also it's early days. Everybody has a number that's too many people coming across the border. For some people, one person, build a wall, we don't want. For somebody else, it might be 1,000, 20,000, a billion. At some point, everybody says it's too much. Democrats now are agreeing it's too much, and Democrats have been willing to give up a lot of our own principles and demands to get something done about it, and been shocked to find Republicans will not take yes for an answer. And I think the country, it's going to take a while to process the idea that Republicans literally refused to do anything about this. Democrats are going to have to make that case. You are correct. Right now, Republicans are trusted more on this issue than Democrats because they've made it an issue, but they also refuse to solve the issue. And so and we proved in New York 2nd District, Congressional District, that Democrats can run on immigration, can be tough and smart on immigration, and actually win. And so in the most recent election, Democrats ran on the issue of immigration, won on immigration, and I think that's a possible pathway for Joe Biden.
Do you think, Mara, that policy doesn't matter on this at this point? Is it all just how harsh the language can be? That's what's going to get you a boost in the polls and who can better handle it? Or do you hear Van saying that it maybe is just going to take a little time for it to set in, that in your view and his, that Republicans have so screwed this up?
Well, Republicans would normally be winning this issue if they hadn't moved the goalpost, as Van's talking about. And as somebody who worked for Speaker John Boehner, I watched the Freedom Caucus move the goalpost time and time again. And I think right now,
but Boehner clamped down on them and controlled them a little bit better.
A little bit better, but you have somebody who is a Freedom Caucus member who's now Speaker, so it's a little bit different. But I think that it does come down to messaging and pointing things out to people. Again, it's 79% think that this is a real problem, and it's going to be a problem coming up to Election Day, and it's going to be a matter of who can message it better to their constituents, to the American people. And if the Republican Party doesn't see their opportunity to capitalize on this by giving funding to address the issue, I do think that they are going to be hurting for it.
Van Jones, big Mitch McConnell fan, I imagine. How do you feel? How do you feel today, now that you've had a chance to process the big announcement that he's stepping down as Senate Republican leader?
You know, I guess he couldn't find any more damage to do to the country, and now he's going to go away. No offense to my colleague here, but you know, this is people call it the Trump Supreme Court. This is the McConnell Supreme Court. It's not the Robert Supreme Court. It's not the Trump Supreme Court. It's the McConnell Supreme Court, and he focused like a laser beam on packing the court with as many right-wing judges as he possibly could. In other words, you can't win the game, so you just basically buy the refs. Now that Supreme Court is ramming down policies that Americans do not agree with. That Supreme Court struck down the Voting Rights Act, even though Congress had passed it on a bipartisan basis to reauthorize it. That's the Supreme Court that attacked women's rights to control their own bodies, and now the whole country's on a banana peel around IVF. This is all because really unpopular ideas that Republicans couldn't get done on a popular basis have been rammed through by a judiciary that he packed and stacked. I am not sad to see him go.
Final word on this. Are you concerned at all, or do you think people should be? Who's going to walk in to fill that role, given the direction of the Republican Party right now?
Absolutely. It's a huge problem. Looking ahead to what already some members like Hawley and others are trying to get as who the next leader will be for the GOP. I'll disagree with Van in the fact that I think elections have consequences, and that's what happened when it comes to the Supreme Court. And Mitch McConnell, like him, hate him, whatever you feel about it, he believes in the integrity of the Senate as an institution, as a body, and it's important we find somebody who can be a Republican leader to do that same job.
Maura Gillespie, Van Jones, thank you to both of you.